Welcome to Just Men, a life-changing program that resonates hope as well as encouragement. The program that gives you information and inspiration for the glory of God. I'm your host, Jeff Tate, and thank you for joining Just Men. On today's program, we have a very special guest. This is his first time being on Just Men. Please welcome Michael E. Wright. Mike E.
That's right.
Welcome to Just Man, brother.
My pleasure, man. Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, it's a tremendous blessing for you to be on a program. And as I said before, off the set, you add value to our program, man. And so we're going to pull that value out of you in this time, man. But before we dive deep into your life and your story, man, kind of turn the page of your bio and just share a little brief about who is Mike E.
Well, Mikey started out as a pastor's son, bishop's son, and my dad was pastoring the church that my grandfather founded. So, you know, in Detroit, and it was really deep oriented spiritual life growing up, but it was in the middle of the hood. I mean, the 68 riots started like 6 blocks from my house, so I was deep in it. And we would go away a little bit to go to church and come back. But my mom sent me to a vocational high school that you had to take a test and you had to pass, and it was a tuition, and I got a scholarship for playing cello. But I was dyslexic, and at the time, nobody knew what that meant. They just move you closer to the board or whatever. So you can imagine trying to read numbers and words. You can imagine trying to read dots on a page as music. So that's where I discovered the gift at an early age, like 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. So when I got to high school, I was playing this music by memory, and I got caught because they invited me to be in the Detroit Junior Symphony Orchestra, and I moved up to like 2nd chair. And I didn't want to be 1st chair because you're responsible to teach the whole rest of the section. And so this German, Mr. Amerigan, I never forget, he told me to start playing that letter B. So I started playing, and I was playing it right, but and when people start flipping their scores, I knew something was wrong. So he called me in the office, and he was like, you know, Mr. Wright, you're not reading this, no? And I'm like, no, I'm not. And he was amazed, and they did it right up in the paper and everything. And that's when I really discovered that it was really a gift that I had. So I figured if I could play cello, I could flip it over, and I started playing guitar, and I ended up being Winans' first guitar player, and Fred Hammond and I started commission, and I played with everybody that came out of Detroit, and long story short, from there, the rap thing came in, and then nobody believed in it, and they thought it was going to be a joke, and Rapper's Delight hit, and Curtis Blow hit, and all of that, but nobody in gospel was doing it at all, except a guy named Michael Peace, and he was the only one. So I kept doing it, and I came to Nashville with BeBe CeCe in 1989 and did a showcase and invited a lot of record companies, and Reunion Records signed me. And I ended up going from the west side of Detroit and riding a bus by Motown every day, literally. I mean, I could see it every day out of the window of the bus, to making it all the way down to Nashville and being label mates with Michael W. Smith and Amy Grant. And I toured with Michael and on the Go West tour and got back-to-back Dove Awards for Rap Album of the Year. And the two connected because you would think being in Detroit and the whole Motown thing, that wasn't the bug I got bitten by. The bug I got bitten by is because my school was downtown and it was near the arenas, the Cobo Hall and Joe Louis. So I was amazed by all these pretty buses and these trucks and everything. So I got bitten by the rock bug. And because my guitar was always too loud in church and whoever I played for, they were all like, man, you're too loud, you're too loud. Here's an industry where they praise loud guitar, you know? So I went to the music stores and tried to figure out what made their guitars sound that way. And that's when I started pursuing that side of it and ended up, you know, doing little clubs with Kid Rock and all that stuff. And I snuck into a Journey sound check, and Neil Schon was playing, and he flicked me a pick. And it's just like a storybook. So then when I fast forward here, when Reunion asked me could I play that style of music to go on tour with Michael W. Smith, it was what I had always dreamed of doing. You know, because the funk thing, the Motown thing came natural because I was black and playing in church. You know, so it wasn't really that fascinating to me. And then from there, I had a heart for the hood, you know, because I'm gonna make it as quick as I can. As the pastor's middle son, there's only 3 of us, an older brother, younger sister, I had a child at 15, and I was a virgin. This is like Just Men. Let me tell you, this was my first experience at 15, And now all of a sudden I got a child, but now I'm the pastor's son. So I have to be more of an example. I mean, there's a lot of my boys probably could have gotten away with it or just kept it underground. But ironically, I got kind of put out there like they say the girl does, because nobody really knew who the girl was, but the word got out. So I had to come up in front of the church and apologize, and I got ostracized, and it's like, you can't play your guitar with the choir, and you know what I mean? And it really did something to me, because it helped me understand what the false street love was, because I stopped hanging out. I stopped going to the park. I stopped playing ball. I stopped playing. And one day on the way home from school, the fellas caught up with me and like, man, where you been? And I was like, man, I got to be on the low, man. I got this kid, I'm 15. And seemingly what should have been said at church was said by these quote unquote brothers that love me in the street. Oh man, is that all? That's why you're not hanging out with us, because you got a kid? Are you kidding? That's all you think of us? You think we're not going to love you, man, because you got a girl pregnant? And if you're not aware, then that appears to be real love, because it's comforting and it's accepting, and it's embracing. And where what happened to me at church was heartbreaking and heart-wrenching and punishing and demeaning. Now they didn't know any better, so I'm not holding it against them. But that's what gave me the understanding, because these same cats would pop you in the head, you know what I mean, if you didn't have the money or if you didn't have the product or the issue or whatever it was. It's a false love. So that experience, though, is what prepared me for the whole rap world, because in my music, I could talk about reality-based gospel things as opposed to just Paul and Silas or the things that made people feel good about being a Christian. I could talk to people about having their first child. I could talk to people about growing up with gangs. I could talk to people about that. And because it's interesting, because Daddy Kane asked me one time, he said, man, how do you do that? And I said, how do I do what, Daddy? He said, how you rap and you don't cuss and you don't do that? I said, because I just don't. My story's the same, but I'm just telling you a different solution.
Wow.
So that's the whole quick bio.
Yeah, that's good. That's you said some powerful things in there, and I want to build on that, particularly on the transitioning and the reconciling to yourself, reconciling going into the ministry as a young man who have lost his way through the process. How did you able to gain your sense of perspective and still stay on course to live the life?
Right.
I
had a very, very special relationship with my mom. My mom was not an overly religious person, but she was just one of the strongest believers that I had ever. We used to call her like Jesus' sister, and I had always said, no matter what I did in my career, if I couldn't go home for Thanksgiving dinner without her being ashamed, or if I did a video or if I did a record or whatever and she would catch ridicule for it, then I wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? But it didn't keep me from wanting to do it at a professional level, at a secular level. And I'm gonna tell you what reconciled me with the pain in the street life was her voice. And it's not the typical, it's the reality of the train up the child in the way they should go. And when they're old, because it didn't take me until I got old to actually hear what she was saying. Because when she was saying it to me while I was younger, don't do this, stay out of the club, I can smell smoke on you, I know you've been doing it, I couldn't hear it. I didn't want to hear it. And I was like, oh mom, oh mom, oh mom. But when I got older, where I could settle and hear her voice, whether she's been passed on since 2000, and I still hear that voice. I still hear what she was. I mean, I used to wake up, I would wake up out of a nap with a greasy forehead because she's anointing my head with oil while I'm sleeping, because she knew the plan. So I asked her one time, I said, Mom, how come, because a lot of my friends, we all grew up playing in church, but a lot of the cats were just blowing up, man, just like playing with Boys to Men and Mary J. Blige, and they still like Lady Gaga, and I mean, these are my best friends. And my mom would always say to me, you can't do what they do because of what God has you here to do. You'll never be able to do that and have any kind of peace. She also said, but if that's what you want to do, then go and do it. Don't go to hell from the church. That's what she told me. This is all you're going to get down here. So live it up. Do it big. Get paid, do the girls, do the house, do the MTV cribs and everything, because this is all you getting. But you cannot do both. So when she said that, it hit me in a way, but it also let me know that I couldn't live both, but I had to reach both. You know, I had to reach the people who were doing that, but they weren't respecting what we were doing for some reason. And when I had the label with Reggie, and that was at the height of my rap career, I had to equate it to this because of the style that I had. I did a lot of secular tours. I toured with Goody Mob and H-Town, and you know, most of the rap shows I did as a positive gospel rapper were all secular shows because I didn't skimp on the music. That was the part of it that I had, and I could make my music sound like their music, and I can make my voice sound like Tupac. And what I mean by that is rap with the same passion and the same, because I met Russell Simmons and a lot of guys from secular radio and the secular world, and they said, Mike, we don't have a problem with what you guys are saying. We just have a problem with how it sounds. And if it sounds cheap and weak and corny, then we can't do anything with it. He said, bring what you're saying, just bring it as hard as we say it. And I said, you know what, man, that makes a lot of sense because it's supposed to be stronger, literally. You're supposed to be able to speak these words that I'm speaking, and lives change, and mountains get moved with the you know, mustard seed thing.
Right.
So that's the mentality I adapted. So the transition from not crossing over and staying over there and getting caught up, because that's the key. That's the one time when I got the farthest out is, you know, my mom passed and my wife passed 4 years later, and I was just out struggling, and it was hard. But right before that time, my wife and I were separated, you know, and I don't even know how they found me to tell me my mom was that sick, and she passed like 2 weeks later, but they found me. But people thought I was out somewhere under a bridge and, you know, just smoking crack or whatever. But the problem was I had decided to do what she said, which was to go. And I was making too much money and having too much fun. You know what I'm saying? And I was making that kind of, see, because it's funny, you can make enough money where people will accept what you do and who you are. You know, if I was Will Smith right now, I could show up at anybody's church on a Sunday and just say I want to be there, and they would have me stand, you know, Will Smith is here and Jada's here, and because they're large enough to deal with the carnal side of people, the normal side of people. Oh my God, that's Will Smith. That's actually Will Smith and Jada are at church, Instagramming and everything. But what are they there for? Which and cats like me that's out trying to do the right thing, you know what I mean? If you don't come home that large, then you just messed up. See, I knew he was gonna be no good. You know, he didn't have no success. I told you, girl. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But if I go out there and come home with 2 Oscars and Jamie Foxx and platinum records, then oh well, we know Lil Mike's doing what he's doing. But he's still our son. Mm-hmm. So I just didn't. You know, I had to have a personal thing, and I like where you go with that. You know, because very few people allow me to talk about how I got through it.
Yeah. You
know, they always want to hear about the success or the behind the scenes stuff, but the real behind the scenes stuff is when you are behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. When you're in your hotel room, when you're on the plane, when you sitting waiting to board the plane and nobody knows you, or you sitting at a red light, or you pumping your own gas, you know, there's a reality that sets in that says, I can't do this anymore. And literally, I know what that's like because I was living with a young lady, and she didn't do anything wrong to me that day. She hadn't done anything different than she had been doing for the last 3 years. But she just walked through the living room, and I just looked at myself, and I said, well, what are we doing? Mm. You know? And I got up, and I got dressed, and I put clothes on, and I walked over to Born Again at that time, and I am a child that was brought up in convention and in conformity and in order. But I opened that door, man, and I just walked right down the middle aisle in the middle of his message because I know nobody had seen me in so long, you know, and I didn't care what was going on. Mm. I just knew if I didn't get to like that one little square foot, you know, at the altar, that this was going to be it for me. And I've never had that feeling before because you get jaded when your dad's the pastor. You know what I mean? You going to church on Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all day, and it starts all over. So you get a little jaded to actually feeling the real presence of God, you know, and whether he's talking to you or not, or whether or you just superstitious, or are you ignoring him. But at this time, I didn't have a choice, you know. And I walked down that aisle, and my kids who I hadn't seen, they came up and grabbed my leg, and my wife, you know, and thank God I did when I did, because I didn't know how severe her cancer was, and I would have missed out on all of that. So, I mean, I get really, really, I've had some beautiful, beautiful people that God has put in my life since, you know, and I wouldn't make it without them, you know, but that one time was a Mike Wright moment. Mike Wright had to get Mike E straight, because Mike E was tripping. You feel me? And that's the simplest way I could put it.
That's beautiful. I know you talk a lot, man, and it's beautiful about transformation. I mean, I think the word, man, it just keeps resonating. I know particularly some will take a look at your life and your book and see that being a son of a Pentecostal bishop, how things are laid out for you in terms of the spiritual walk and being able to walk into, use the term anointing, recognizing your gift early in life, and then using the gift eventually to glorify God. But through this whole transformation, you also talk about brokenness and deliverance. What word and what experience do you share that has really empowered you today when you reflect on it, when you start talking about a turning point in your life, a transformation when you seen the real you, the reflection of who you really are, when this identity thing really kind of came to surface for you?
Yeah, the gift. One thing Pop Winans taught us when we were kids, we were playing with them when we were like 14, 15 years old, and he always taught us never take credit. When people come up and say you played great, you did it, it's not you, it's the gift. And to this day, anybody that knows me, because I've been in a lot of situations, and I equate it to like David, you know, where guys would be intimidated, I guess, for lack of a better word, to put it in a natural sense, and I would tell them, dude, you're messing with the wrong thing. It's not me, because if I unleash this on you, it's that strong. Because I know my mother prayed for my anointing, and I've really dedicated to him now. So I'm talking about being able to walk around the wall 7 times and bringing it down. That's the kind of power that I believe the gift I have has. And it's the one thing that I clung to when I couldn't cling to anything else. Now, I would be able to sit and watch major ministers. Nothing personal I knew about them, but I could finish their sentences because I knew I had the gift to minister. I knew I had that gift to minister, and I would know where they were going, or I would either to myself quietly say, man, if he had went down this path right here, that would have put it all together, you know. And then eventually he did, and I would just giggle to myself because I knew that. But I didn't want to play with that part of it. Wow. I didn't want to pretend, you know, because I remember a lot of my friends now, I mean, my peers, one of them, you know, he's on the general board of Church of God in Christ and all of that and stuff. But I remember when they all started carrying their dad's briefcases and they started wearing suits, and I still knew we were all hanging out and doing the same stuff. And my mom, fortunately, had scared me out of trying that. You know, plus I'm gonna just keep it real since this is just for men. Yeah. I just was a brother that couldn't get up there and see the honey that either I was just with the night before or I was gonna be with that night, and then try to tell everybody about not doing what I was getting ready to do. I just couldn't do that. It was just something that he put in me. So the thing that I clung to, though, the thing that brought me out of the darkest, because I literally, for the first time ever in my life, when my mom passed, set my guitar in the corner and said, I don't think I'm gonna be able to play anymore. You know, and I didn't realize at the time the importance of it. So there is a turning point, and I can tell you when it was. It was at the funeral of my wife. And I was searching for something to say, and I had the mic in my hand, and I'm going to call her name because she's my sweetheart, and her sister Kitty, Pastor Hawkins' wife. She just looked at me and she said, don't say, she said in a quiet voice, she said, don't say anything, just play. She said, just play, Mike. She said, put the mic down and play. And I said, wow. So I did. And, you know, from that day to this day, Doc, it's that real to me.
Wow.
It's that real to me. So I encourage all the brothers and sisters, but the young men. I was talking. You guys were talking about mentoring. Find out what your gift is. Find out what your purpose is. You know, whatever it is, because it can literally save your life. I can look at fellas and tell them I had gang cats, dude. We sitting there with stuff on the table, guns, everything. And when I told them, man, I'm getting ready to go to New York, and you know what they told me? Dude, go, because you wasn't supposed to be here anyway. You're supposed to be somewhere playing that guitar. I've had thugs and just, you know, cats who know nothing about music say, man, you supposed to be playing, man. You the best guitar, this and that. I said, no, man, it's just a gift. So anybody who knows me knows that every fiber of my being is based around this gift. And they get mad at me because I play, and I'm not going to say on television because I still got to make a living, but I would play regardless. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because and hopefully that answers your question, because that defined me. I mean, Mike E, the rap artist, and videos and the tours and all of that was fun. You know, but when I'm home and I'm hurting, I don't rap to myself, but my gift speaks to me, and he tells me things in my music. And I look at those characters in the Bible, like David and you know, Gabriel, and I used to tease my dad all the time. I said, look, this is why y'all preachers, pastors and stuff want people to stand when you come in, and y'all got to have all this juice down here, because when you get up there, you ain't gonna have nothing to do. You're just gonna be up there like all the rest of us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I'll be able to sit down with David and say, show me how you did that. You know, how did you get that demon out? What chord did you use? And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that saved me.
You bring something that's very powerful, and I know it's our last note as we kind of bring some closure. The reason why I asked you a question, I was getting to the difference between the power of ministry versus the power of entertainment, and how one becomes more legitimized in the presence of God, because one of the measure of ministry is change. Many times people are changed, but they're entertained, but they're not changed. And so there seems to be a lack of power that's going around in a lot of our gifts. We're using the gift, but the gift is not presenting power. So in these last closing moments, I want to kind of you share a little bit about the difference between the two, and what, you know, how do you keep yourself in the power of God without getting, again, like you said, puffed up and caught up in the gift?
Yeah. God blessed me with one thing through my dyslexia, which is you got to use a lot of common sense, because you can't always read and you can't always, you know, evaluate things. And you're right. There's an entertainment value, because ironically, I'm gonna make this really quick. They had the leader of the Klan in the 50s with the hood on, and he was speaking, and one of the guys who was converted said it wasn't what he was saying. It's like I knew what he was saying was wrong. He said, but the dynamic way he said it, and if you go back and listen to some of those Klan rallies, he sounds much like a Pentecostal preacher. You know, don't listen to what he's saying. Look at how he's saying it, and the passion and the stuff, and what he's saying it with. Well, that's what our ministry has become. It's become showbiz, basically. I mean, I can't fake it. But there's one minister out there that I cling to, and it's not. I'm not a member. I don't think, but I just believe that he teaches the way that Jesus had to have taught. And the reason why I say that, and you can guess who he is, but think about it this way: if I play in front of 10,000 people nowadays, I have to have a really big PA system for them to hear. So then, yeah, they can scream and yell at everything I'm playing. But if Jesus is standing on a mountaintop and he's speaking to multitudes, the multitudes had to be quiet and still, so his voice could travel and through the Spirit. And that's why his messages and his sermons were so simple, because there wasn't not a pomp and circumstance in it. Because what he was saying had so much substance that it didn't need any support behind it. We need all of this stuff to keep everybody's attention. You understand what I'm saying? But I think when it comes down to the bare knuckles of it, If you want to preach if you want to be as close to Christ, not religiously, not church, not this, not that, not Baptist, not that. If you want to be as close to what Christ taught then put yourself, if you can remotely stretch your mind, into how he did it, when he did it, and what he did. And see, I'm a person that has spent my life in front of multitudes, and I know what it takes to move multitudes. And the multitudes we're moving are not being moved by what we're saying. They're being moved by how we're saying it.
Wow.
And what we're saying sounds like. But when you can have 70,000 people sitting and listening to you tell parables, and listening to you make little simple statements that make so much sense, you know, the hoopers, I call them, say, well, it got to be something else. Why? It's what they're hearing.
Wow.
Not how they're hearing it. It's what they're hearing.
Man, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. You know, we got to have you back on again. I know there's so much more that you and I can expound upon and share. And
I hope I helped.
Yeah, tremendously. And I know I want you to give some last words of encouragement. Many men watches our program, and they're trying to find a gift and trying to find their way through somewhat in the wilderness, and have lost their way. And some have allowed unforgiveness and allowed a lot of things to keep them from reaching who they are in God. And so the last word of encouragement.
The last word of encouragement is first of all, is to know that you and you alone are the only one that has to answer for you and you alone. You're responsible for your children, your wife, your families, if you have them. But your soul and your self and your self-worth is all about what you feel and what you're responsible for. Don't look at what you've done, because what you've done is not going to matter if you change. What you've done can only matter if you don't do anything about what you've done. But if you let what you've done control what you're going to do, then you're lost. So you have to look at what you've done and say, wow, I was pretty whacked, or I was pretty this, or I did a great thing. I helped a lot of people. Whatever it is, don't focus on it though. And it sounds like a cliche, but again, it's just that simple.
Wow.
You know, and I've always been a really common sense person. You know, if the door opens that way, then I'm going to open the door that way. And my site, MikeEWright.com, is not a plug, but any of the brothers, there's no charge to talk to me, is why I'm saying that.
Wow.
That's why I don't mind putting it out there, because there's no fee to sit down and hang out with me. If you want to go to lunch, if you want to hang out, you want to talk, let me know. Hit me up and we can do it. And I'll give you, I'll let it flow. I'll give you everything I have. If it'll help you, you
University. I know I've seen it on your website. We will put that, definitely put that on our.
But yeah, man, I appreciate what you're doing, man. I mean, I feel your heart, which is why I drop anything to come down here and be a part of what you're trying to do, because your heart is pure. Your heart is in the right place. And don't worry about being talented. Find out what your gift is. We're all born with a lot of talents, but that gift is the one that gets you where you need to be.
Wow, that's awesome. Stay focused. Man.
My pleasure.
Man.
My pleasure.
Wow.
No doubt.